Hello, everyone. Welcome to Court with Krissy. Talk about a scary situation. I listened to this all go down on the scanner, and thanks to the quick actions of the sheriff's department, the victims are okay. But one thing the prosecutor fails to mention, this all happened behind a Planet Fitness. Go figure. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy is now in session.
Number 25-4095 FY1. You are Joseph Hoffer. You're appearing for arraignment purposes this afternoon. You're appearing with Ms. Mistley, the defense attorney available through the Indigent Defense Counsel here to assist you. Ms. Mistley, did you have opportunity to review the allegations on the complaint, nature of the offense, possible maximum penalties with Mr. Hoffer?
We did, and we will waive a formal reading of the felony complaint, enter pleas of not guilty, and request the assignment of an attorney.
Mr. Hoffer, in order to complete a petition for court-appointed attorney, I need to place you under oath and ask you some questions. Would you please raise your right hand?
Sure. Yes.
And you swear that the information you're about to give me will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Of course.
Thank you, and you're welcome to lower your hand. And your mailing address, please.
Lewiston, Michigan. I was hoping to get like a P.O. box here in Traverse City. If anything changes, I'll let you know.
Are you currently employed?
Yeah, by DoorDash.
And what's your average take-home pay?
I guess I don't know. Sometimes I work for like 12 hours around there. So I don't know if I work. I try to get the 300 sometimes. Some like 250. Sometimes I only work for a couple hours and spend the rest of the time at the gym and different places in between then.
Do you own a vehicle?
I do, yeah.
What's the estimated value of your vehicle?
Probably not much. I think I don't know how much I spent on it. But yeah. Probably like 1,000 or 2.
Do you receive any other source of income or assistance?
I do not.
Do you have any money in a checking account, savings account, any cash on hand?
I do not have cash on hand.
Or checking or savings?
I do, yeah, checking and savings.
Okay, so about how much?
15,000? Around 15,000.
And that's in checking and savings?
I'm pretty sure that's just in checking. But yeah, checking savings combined 15,000. It's just all in checking.
I would not determine that you were indigent, meaning you'd have no funds in order to hire your own attorney. Have you tried to hire an attorney?
No, they said that it would cost about like 25,000 for like a retainer fee. So
Ms. Mistley, you're muted, ma'am.
Sorry, I can't imagine that any one of our defense attorneys in town would take only a $15,000 retainer fee with charges like this and the number of charges.
I will appoint a court-appointed attorney. Mr. Hoffer, I'm going to remind you that you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say, orally or in writing, can be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present during any questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, the court would appoint one at public expense. You have the right to have the attorney present during all subsequent court proceedings. You have the right to a preliminary examination. In this case, it would be scheduled for April 8th, be at 11 a.m. with Judge Cooney. Also, on April 1st, you would have a probable cause conference. Mr. Olson is here from the prosecutor's office. Mr. Olson, is there information that you'd like me to know regarding bond?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. First, Your Honor, I would like to describe the information that was derived from the 2 named victims in this case. The named victim in count 1 described the incident as the being approached by the defendant while the defendant was holding both a handgun and a knife, a handgun in one hand and a knife in the other. He was not responsive when the victim number one tried to engage him in conversation. This was along a hiking trail. Neither victim had any prior contact with the defendant. The defendant then pointed the gun and held it up to victim one's head and held him at gunpoint for at least a minute or two before there was further discussion. Both victims relayed that the defendant then tried to hand the knife that he was holding to victim number two while still retaining the handgun. And after after some time, the defendant indicated that he was there to, quote, protect victim number two, and eventually permitted victim number one to leave the area. Victim number one then left and immediately called 911 and to get law enforcement to respond to that area. Meanwhile, victim number two reported that she attempted to flee or escape from the defendant. The defendant prevented her escape by cutting in front of her as she tried to run up a hill, and continued to restrain her by possessing the handgun. When the victim number two reported that when police sirens were heard, the defendant began to run, and then at which time officers or deputies encountered the defendant still holding a handgun and a knife in his hand. Again, the defendant did not respond to immediate commands to drop both weapons. This was highly dangerous and volatile situation. While the defendant did eventually relinquish both weapons and was placed into custody, there was multiple instances here where there was an extreme potential for violence, death, and serious bodily injury to multiple people. Furthermore, the investigation revealed that that the defendant was seen approximately 2 weeks ago at a local shooting range, where he departed from a practice area at that shooting range carrying what appears to be a long gun case and a handgun case. During a search of the defendant's vehicle after this incident, officers recovered a 12-gauge shotgun with ammunition. They also recovered rope. They recovered duct tape, a meat cleaver, and as well as over 800 condoms. This is an ongoing investigation, but there's very serious risk to the community in this case, and multiple instances, and particularly what was found in the defendant's vehicle and what his intentions were, and the pre-planning for this otherwise what would appear as a random incident is not so random with the evidence of planning here. And so for those reasons, Your Honor, the people have very grave concerns for the safety of the community, and as well as the defendant's ability to appear. Understanding he has no criminal history, these are very serious offenses. But for a missing element, this could have been a case where remand would be appropriate and the court could remand the defendant. So respectfully, we would request that the court order a high cash or surety bond in this case, along coupled with a GPS tether and a form of home arrest should the defendant be able to secure a stable and verifiable residence.
Thank you. Ms. Misterly? You're muted, ma'am.
A couple of things. One, I think we're making some assumptions, that some illicit or nefarious use was intended by a homeless person who apparently had in his vehicle, which is his home, some rope, a knife, and duct tape.
No ill intentions.
Don't know that, we should be assuming that it's going to be used in the future for some nefarious.
No.
Secondly, I think hold on just a minute, sir. I think it is important to note a couple of things. One, the lack of a any criminal history at his age. And the fact that the jail was so concerned about his mental health, that they petitioned him in, and a judge apparently has signed a transport order. Is that correct, Ms. Bush?
Yep, that's correct.
And I think it's particularly telling that with whatever is going on of mental illness at this point, that
There's no mental illness.
it may very well end up with an NGRI coming to fruition, but the jail has taken appropriate steps. They petitioned him. The probate judge signed a transport order. Seems to me that rather than holding someone who's apparently going through a mental health crisis in the jail, as opposed to going to get the help that a judge has ordered, that should certainly happen. And when they're done with him in New
There's
Baltimore,
no
to
like
have him
mental health
returned
crisis in the
to the
situation.
jail, and his attorney at that time can further address any bond issue. And it is a locked facility that he'd be going to, according to Ms. Bush. I'm not personally familiar with this facility, but she did share with us it's a locked facility. So let's get the issue addressed. The issue certainly seems to support the belief that anything that did happen on March 14th was a result of the mental health crisis. Thank
So
you.
this was no crisis. I can give
Okay,
you
sir.
more information.
I'm going to ask the court to mute him, please.
Okay.
Mr. Olson?
Yes, Your Honor, can I just interject? I wanted to just follow up on a response to Ms. Stilley's comment. Regarding the potential placement that he's been accepted in an inpatient facility that's secure. My understanding from speaking with Ms. Bush is that would happen regardless of whether the defendant remains in custody or not. And so I just, for the court's clarification, Ms. Stilley, should the defendant not be able to post bond, the intentions are, I believe, and we confirm with Ms. Bush, that the defendant would still be brought to that facility while he's in the custody of the Grand Traverse County Jail.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Olson.
So, Mr. Hoffer, I am going to place you on a $250,000 cash or surety bond. Conditions on the bond are that you may not use nor possess any weapons of any sort, nor use any object as a weapon. You'll have no threatening, intimidating, harassing, or violent behavior towards any person. You'll be respectful of all court employees and care providers during the course of your case. You may not go near either of the alleged victims in this case. You'll stay 500 yards or more away from each. I trust that the locked facility that you'll be transported to is exactly that, and that the jail staff understands their obligation as far as protection of society as well, because I do believe that it is a definite risk to public safety. Mr. Olson, would you have anything further?
Judge, if I could just inquire from Ms. Bush, do you know if a GPS tether were ordered, if that could be worn at the treatment facility that's been proposed?
I have not confirmed that. I've had someone go prior in the past with one. The issue is that we have a bed that we have to get him to by midnight tonight. So if we don't, then we lose that bed, and he'll have to sit at Munson at least for a week.
Okay. I don't have any further, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Ms. Mistley?
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to leave it as is right now. Then, Mr. Hoffer, we'll hear from your court-appointed attorney by the middle of next week. We'll make sure and have the contact information through Ms. Bush provided to your attorney. And so for right now then, sir, you are all set.
Good luck to you, Mr.
Mr. Robinson, thank you for
Yes,
your
okay.
patience.
I